Call me a misanthrope, an introvert, whatever. The fact is, I always thought I preferred being alone. I had a couple of friends. Well, mainly acquaintances. People I worked with. People I lived near. Family. But I had tried doing the companionship thing, and it never seemed to be for me. I had a girlfriend for 2 years, but she left me because I rarely wanted to go out with her friends, preferring to stay home, just the two of us. The feeling that was most prominent after she left was relief. I also tried hanging out with a group of people I met online. As in, hanging out with them in the real world. I did this because my ex-girlfriend told me I needed to get out more, to meet people, to come out of my shell. I realized after hanging out with them that I liked my shell better. Again, it's not that I didn't like them. I'm just not a hangout kind of person. I'm not an Asperger's patient or anything. I can have conversations, I can be friendly. I've stopped to help strangers on the side of the road who were having car trouble. I've helped people move who I barely knew. I've donated blood just because I could. I've volunteered at a homeless shelter. It's just a matter of preferring to stay in on a Friday night with a good book, when having a group of friends would mean I'd feel obligated to go out instead. I say all that to say that the loneliest I'd ever felt was when I was in a crowd of people, and I truly believed that the best feeling ever was the feeling of being alone. That is, until this morning. I woke up, and the first thing I noticed was that the power was out. I live in an older building just south of downtown. The kind of place where the carpet in the halls is stained all over with God knows what. The paint on the walls is chipped and peeling. In many places the ceiling is just a collection of exposed pipes. The elevators make odd noises like they're straining on even the lightest load, and the whole place carries the heady bouquet of booze, cigarettes, and weed. The power's gone out before. The last time it happened, it didn't come back on for 2 days. I had just gone grocery shopping the day before. Sucks having to throw out stuff you just bought. So, when I woke, my first feeling was irritation. They had better not take forever getting it back on this time, I muttered. Now, where you live, the power probably mostly goes out only after a storm, fire, or heavy snowfall. In my building, with wiring that was probably installed during the Ford administration and hadn't really been upgraded since, the power could go out at any time of the year, and needed no outside catalyst to do so. So it never crossed my mind to wonder why, on a wet but not stormy day in April, the power would go out like this. I opened all my windows for light, but it didn't help much, as it was pretty gray outside. The weather had been cloudy all week, with a few light showers, and even with my largest window open, I still couldn't see much in my house, and my bathroom, which had no windows, was darker than a crypt. My alarm clock was dead, of course, so I checked the time on my phone. I swore and leaped into the shower, not caring that the water was ice cold, and that I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. Even if I walked out the door this very minute, I was going to be an hour late for work. I hate being late. I usually try to be at least 15 minutes early. It's a weird side effect of introverts that we're usually pretty anal retentive about being on time. Throwing on some clothes, I bolted out the door, headed for the elevator. Mid-stride, I turned for the stairs, remembering almost too late that no power of course meant no elevator. Now, this is probably when I first felt it, that sense of unease. I did my best to ignore it, because I wasn't a child anymore, and feelings like that are just your mind running away on you. But it was hard to ignore, and not just because of the total darkness of the stairwell. It was because I realized at that point that I had not seen another human being that entire morning. This, by itself, was not an alarming thing. I had often made it to the elevator before without seeing another person, However, while descending into the dark, holding my phone before me, LED light shining, I realized a couple of things that seemed out of place. First, I heard no noise coming from behind any of the other apartment's doors, which I should have considering the air was off. Second, I was late. I usually left for work before the rush, but today I was leaving at the same time that a lot of other people should be. On an ordinary day, maybe some of them took the elevator and few took the stairs, but today, they all should be on the stairs with me. In those memories, there's only the ice. That jagged, gaping hole, dark and endless, like a wound carved into the heart of winter itself. The water churns beneath it, cold and slick and alive, beckoning, calling. I stare at it for what feels like hours, waiting for him to resurface, waiting for his hand, his face, his scream, but nothing comes. Just the wind howling across the frozen expanse, the trees groaning under the weight of snow, and the deafening emptiness of a world without him in it. But the worst version? The one that haunts me long after I've forced my eyes open, gasping for air like I've been the one drowning? That's the version where I see myself. I'm on the shore, just standing there, watching. In that version, I don't run to the hole. I don't throw myself down to claw at the ice or scream his name until my throat tears. I don't even move. I'm just there, a dark, frozen silhouette, framed by the falling snow. My arms hang limp at my sides, my breath misting the air in shallow puffs, my shadow stretched long and strange against the unbroken whiteness behind me. He's sinking, and I'm standing. In that memory, I don't even try. Sometimes, I tell myself that version isn't real. That it's just my guilt playing tricks on me, warping what happened into something worse than it was. But other times, I wonder. I wonder if my mind is trying to tell me something, trying to unravel the truth from the tangle of fear and grief and cold. What if that's what really happened? What if I didn't do anything? What if I stood there, paralyzed, while he slipped into the dark? I think about the cold. The way it seeps into your bones, slows your body down, turns your thoughts sluggish and heavy like wet cement. Maybe that's what it was, shock, frostbite of the mind, freezing me in place. But no matter how many times I tell myself that, it doesn't feel like enough. Because the truth is, I don't remember moving. Not then. Not after. All I remember is the snow falling, silent and endless, erasing everything. And the hole in the ice, black and empty, waiting to swallow me whole. I was 17. Jake was 19. My older brother, my tormentor, my hero. He was everything I wasn't, brave, wild, reckless. Always daring, always laughing, always pushing me to keep up. Jake was the kind of guy everyone liked, the kind who could walk into a room and make it his without even trying. He didn't just live, he consumed life. I hated him for that. And I loved him for it, too. That winter, the lake froze early. The frost clung to the windows like spiderwebs, the world outside suffocating beneath layers of white and silence. Jake had this idea, like he always did. Stupid and impulsive and impossible to say no to. He stumbled in late that night, drunk on cheap beer and adrenaline, his cheeks red from the cold, and grabbed my arm, dragging me off the couch where I was trying to ignore him. "Come on, Ethan," he slurred, his grin sharp, cutting. "Let's check out the lake. I bet it's solid as a rock." I told him no. At least, I think I did. The memory is hazy, fragmented, like an old photograph that's been torn and pieced back together wrong. Maybe I told him no, maybe I tried to fight him off, or maybe I didn't even bother. Saying no to Jake was like shouting into a storm, pointless, exhausting. "Scaredy cat," he taunted, his voice sing-song, dragging out the words. What's the worst that could happen, huh? You might actually grow a spine? Might actually have fun for once? He laughed when I didn't respond. That laugh, it always grated on me, needled at something deep inside. It made me feel small, insignificant, weak. I hated that laugh, but more than anything, I hated how much I cared about what he thought. So, I went. The lake was beautiful that night, the kind of beautiful that shouldn't exist. It was too still, too perfect. The moon hung high, cold and white, casting the ice in an unnatural glow. The stars reflected on its surface like a second sky, so clear and sharp they almost seemed more real than the one above. The air was so cold it felt alive, biting at my lungs, my face, my fingertips. Jake didn't care. He never cared. He stepped onto the ice first, his boots crunching faintly. I remember that sound. It echoes in my head sometimes, sharp, rhythmic, fading as he walked farther out. See, he called, his voice carrying across the empty expanse. Solid as a rock. I hesitated at the edge, the tips of my boots just brushing the ice. The lake groaned beneath him, a low, guttural sound that seemed to come from deep within its frozen heart. It wasn't a warning, not yet. Just a whisper, a murmur. Come on, Ethan, Jake's voice echoed again, louder this time, more impatient. I instantly flew back down the stairs and back into the hallway, running full tilt for the very stairs I had just come down, bolting back up them. I cautiously opened the door back on my floor, listening. No steps as of yet. All thoughts of the footsteps belonging to another confused, frightened person had left my mind. Those heavy treads did not belong to a person who was in the same situation as me. They did not sound frightened or confused. They were purposeful. A purpose that I knew could not be good. This time, I reached my apartment and managed to get inside. I locked the door, the deadbolt, and secured the chain on the door. I stood there for a second, feeling like that wasn't enough, and finally put a chair under the knob. Then I went into the living room and huddled against the large window. For a very long time, nothing happened. And then I heard them again. There was no doubt in my mind now that the footsteps were coming for me. They trod, persistently, inescapably closer, starting to slow further as they reached my apartment door. They stopped. Just on the other side of my door, something waited, possibly listening for me, but knowing beyond a doubt that I was inside. I thought I could smell something from the hall. Something that smelled hot. That's the only way I can describe it. It smelled hot. I waited. It waited. The silence was palpable. I felt that the air between us had solidified, waiting, as the world did, for the inevitable. My doorknob rattled. First a little, then vigorously. I sat there, numb, my breath coming in short gasps, my heart beating so fast it felt like a continuous pressure in my chest. Finally the rattling stopped. I slowly pulled myself away from the window and fired up my laptop. Unlike my phone, it had not been on all night and the battery was still fully charged. As I have written this, the rattling at the door has returned 3 times. The last time was the most insistent, and was accompanied by a loud banging. I don't know if anyone is still out there to read this. I don't even know how long the internet will continue to work. I never needed people before today, but I sure need them now. Being a misanthrope has its oddities, but no situation I've been in has been more odd than this. I was alone, and did not want to be. Now I'm not alone, and I desperately wish I was.